Every place has a story to tell, but the Park of 1889 campground has several. Its 5 acres accommodate 10 tent sites in a variety of settings. They're nestled in groves of white pine and cherry trees, sitting near a small meadow bordering a wetland that's teeming with life. Woods, a meadow, wetlands, all thriving in harmony with a campground on 5 acres? Clearly there's a story here. Dig a little bit and you'll find history too.
I think people get lost of where you are in the site because of all the trees and that have transpired. But most of these trees are all under 100 years old. But they come down here and they don't realize at one time this was all one big lake. You know, and the history that goes with that lake breaking, wiping out Johnstown, the biggest natural disaster in American history in the 19th century.
Eventually, this land passed into the hands of the Adams-Croyle Recreation Authority, which developed a 100-acre park, the Park of 1889, named for the year of the Johnstown Flood. Here, local residents can play ball or picnic. There's a coal mining museum and the Disaster's Edge Environmental Education Center, managed by the Cambria County Conservation District. Right next door is the Johnstown Flood National Memorial, operated by the National Park Service. Deciding a campground was needed, the Recreation Authority met with representatives of the West Sylvania Heritage Corporation, a private nonprofit group that provides technical assistance and funding for natural heritage development. West Sylvania helped the authority develop the basic campground concept. Then, when invasive plant species were found on site, natural biodiversity was brought in.
They're the ones that's showing us what to do, really helping us. I mean, we know what we want, or we think we want, but they're the ones that are really putting it in for us.
Sponsored by West Sylvania, Natural Biodiversity's mission is to stop the spread of invasive alien plants and to reintroduce native plants in southwestern Pennsylvania. Also a host program for the National Wildlife Federation's Habitat Stewards program, Natural Biodiversity quickly determined that the proposed campsite would be a good place for a wildlife habitat enhancement project.
The Backyard Habitat program is based on 4 basic principles for wildlife. 1, you need the food. 2nd, you need the water. 3rd, you need cover. And then the 4th is you need somebody for the wildlife to raise their young.
The uniqueness of this is that we're looking at habitat not only in the traditional connotation of habitat for wildlife, but also habitat for humans and wildlife on one site. This is going to be a campground, so we're thinking of it in terms of the human aspects and the human relationship to nature.
Natural Biodiversity developed a concept for the 1889 campground that placed priorities on environmental and historical education. The concept also called for the use of native plants as privacy screening between the campsites. Landscape designer Julia Herbst was hired and first worked with West Sylvania's Dave Seawalk to lay out the campground.
We developed scattered sites, so there's room among the campsites for tenting and privacy, and they're of different sizes. And then it had to accommodate parking and unloading of vehicles. And then in between, we worked with sort of ecotypes or habitat areas. So there's wet meadow, or there's a buried edge, or there's an upland forest. So we really work with ecotypes, develop a planting plan that matches that and fulfills the goals.
Julia then worked with Natural Biodiversity to identify and obtain 330 plants, representing 45 species for the campground.
We actually have a variety of habitats ranging from hardwood mixed forest to the meadow area that you see behind me and to a wetland area behind that. The species that were selected for each area are what you would naturally see growing in that kind of environment.
The mixed hardwood forest features oak, maple, and hickory trees, plus typical understory shrubs. Near the entrance of the campground is a meadow featuring native flowers, including goldenrod. Water-loving plants are featured in the wetlands, including red maple, dogwood, and spicebush. Planning the project was only half the job. How new life got planted here is another story, a story of partnerships.
The project has been made possible by a lot of different partners that we have. Park of 1889 and the Recreation Authority is one main one. West Sylvania Heritage Corporation is another. They're working with the authority to develop the campsites and the other recreational facilities that will be here. while we're working on the plantings with all the volunteers that are here today and others that have helped us plan, including Alternative Community Resource Program, AmeriCorps, and Forest Hills High School, and many other groups, including the National Wildlife Federation and the Habitat Stewards, which are the local volunteers that we have designated to this specific project.
Working with Adams and Croyle townships, the Recreation Authority harvested some cherry and pine trees that were near the end of their life cycles to help pay for the project, prepared the site, created an access loop, and dug 50 holes for new tree plantings. Using funds obtained by West Sylvania from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Natural Biodiversity purchased new trees and shrubs and the hand tools needed to plant them. Then Natural Biodiversity brought in volunteers and groups such as science students from the local Forest Hills High School for 2 days of planting.
We felt it was important to team up with the group here and show them, firsthand what, they can actually get in here, get their hands dirty and work around this, remove some invasive species, do some plantings of some things that are beneficial to the site, and also, put back into their community, which we also talk a lot about, what they can do in their own backyard, not necessarily the entire world, but just their backyard to make things just a little bit better.
There were Boy Scouts doing community service to advance in rank, as well as other young people who were doing community service to pay for crimes they'd committed.
Today we're here with clients in the Accountability Enhancement Program. These are kids who have committed crimes and are here to earn money which goes towards paying off their restitution for their crime victims.
AmeriCorps contributed several members, including Chad Kyleman on the Natural Biodiversity staff, and Mary Mock, who worked next door at Disaster's Edge Environmental Education Center.
Natural Biodiversity embraces one of the focus areas where we want to provide service, and that is environment. And there's a lot of issues in this region in particular of concern, anything from acid mine drainage to invasive species. So they provide not only service to the community, but they also provide an opportunity for AmeriCorps members to learn about the issues that face the environment.
Then there were Habitat Steward volunteers like Ellen Singleton.
This happens to be of interest of mine as a resident of Pennsylvania, and I have an interest in restoring what would have been, looking at how to encourage habitat for wildlife.
This is a continuing story. Natural Biodiversity's goal is to do at least one major community habitat enhancement project each year, which means that you and your organization can become involved. To learn more, visit www.naturalbiodiversity.org.